The Junkyard Dogs, the scrap metal yard. Here is a short story about two Doberman Pinschers who guard a scrap metal yard and discover that salvation is not protecting the wreckage of the past, but letting love lift it away. At the edge of an old industrial town stood a scrap metal yard filled with crushed cars, bent pipes, broken appliances, tangled wire, and rusted machinery. Two Doberman Pinschers named Bruno and Roxy guarded the yard. Every morning, they marched between the piles with ears raised and paws striking the ground like drums. "Nothing leaves without our permission," Bruno declared. "Every broken piece must be protected," Roxy agreed. They barked when metal rattled in the wind. They growled at shadows between wrecked cars. They even chased birds away from an old refrigerator. Neither dog noticed that guarding the wreckage had made them restless. They quietly yearned for peace while dreading the loss of the very things that kept them trapped. In the center of the yard stood a towering crane with a giant round magnet hanging from its arm. The crane operator was an elderly woman named Grace. Each morning, Grace climbed into the cab and lowered the magnet over the piles. With a deep metallic hum, it lifted crushed doors, broken engines, twisted beams, and sheets of steel high into the air. Bruno hated the crane. "It is stealing our yard," he barked. Roxy raced beneath the swinging magnet. "Put everything back!" Grace leaned from the cab window. "I am not stealing anything," she called. "I am clearing what no longer serves." "These pieces are evidence," Bruno said. "Evidence of what?" Grace asked. "That damage is real," said Roxy. "Our case is foolproof." Grace smiled. "The case may be foolproof, but it is not God-proof." The dogs did not understand, so they barked louder. That evening, a storm swept through town. Wind tore between the piles, causing the metal to groan and shift. Bruno and Roxy ran from heap to heap. "Protect the cars!" Bruno shouted. "Guard the pipes!" cried Roxy. A tower of scrap began to lean. The dogs pushed against it, but the weight was too great. Grace arrived, climbed into the crane, and swung the magnet over the unstable pile. The metal lifted immediately. Bruno and Roxy stared as hundreds of jagged pieces rose together, held by an invisible force. The storm passed. For the first time, the dogs saw that the unseen had accomplished what all their barking, guarding, and struggling could not. "How did the magnet know what to lift?" Roxy asked. "It did not judge the pieces," Grace replied. "It responded to what they were made of." "So even damaged metal still contains something the magnet recognizes?" Bruno asked. "Yes," said Grace. "The wreckage may look twisted, but its true nature still answers the call." The dogs became quiet. Grace sat beside them beneath the crane. "You have tried to save this yard by protecting every broken thing," she said. "But salvation is not preserving wreckage. It is allowing what is useful to be reclaimed and what is finished to be released." "Salvation," Bruno repeated. Grace pointed toward the crane. "Think of it as salvageation." Roxy's ears lifted. "Love lifts the burden without condemning it?" "Exactly," Grace said. The next morning, Bruno and Roxy tried something new. When the crane approached a pile of crushed cars, they did not bark. They watched. The magnet descended, touched the metal, and lifted it into the sunlight. Piece by piece, the pathways opened. Grass appeared beneath the debris. Wildflowers grew near the fence. A small stream, hidden under rusted sheets, began to flow again. With every load the crane removed, the yard became lighter. Bruno stopped patrolling the western gate with suspicion. Roxy stopped chasing shadows. They rested together beneath the crane, trusting Grace to know what to lift and when. They learned that only infinite patience produces immediate effects. Whenever fear returned, Bruno said, "Rest in love." Roxy answered, "And protect our rest by loving." They no longer tried to make the unreal real. They stopped basing their safety on damaged forms and placed their faith in the invisible strength joining everything together. Morning and evening, Grace offered the same prayer. "I am safe from inner and outer harm. I am free from guilt, shame, and hatred. I am living with the ease of an open heart. I am willing to face the darkness and awaken to our radiant true nature as boundless love." Bruno and Roxy rested beneath the great magnet with peaceful hearts. The scrapyard had not disappeared, but it no longer ruled them. The scrap was simply scrap. The past was simply past. And whenever the crane lifted another twisted piece into the sky, the two junkyard dogs remembered that nothing real had ever been damaged. May we sing, rest, and dance our way home together.